Good afternoon, everyone. Before I read the text for this week and present some questions for us to consider, I'd like to just remind you that when we gather together and worship this week, we will be celebrating communion. And so you'll be invited to partake of the elements of juice or wine, grape juice or red wine, and bread at your tables after the liturgy is presented and the prayers are prayed. If you do not have those, we do have them available here at the church. They're outside on the welcome bench under the portico. You can just drive up and pick some up if you're able to get out. You're invited to do that. And I hope that that is a time where you are reminded of the Spirit. This text this week talks about table fellowship, kind of like last week's with Emmaus, how people gather together around tables. And I know that many of us are not able to do that at this time. So I hope that the time we gather together virtually around the Lord's table this Sunday provides nourishment and some spiritual fulfillment for all of us. I love this translation of the Bible. I read the Good News version a lot. I grew up on this version. Many people talk about the King James, the version they grew up on, or others. I love this version. It is the one that I was raised on, and is also one that I like because it has these pictures, these wonderful sketches. It's a simple thing, but it helps make the text come alive to me. So I'll read Acts chapter 2, verse 42 to 47. They spent their time in learning from the apostles, taking part in the fellowship, and sharing in the fellowship meals and prayers. Many miracles and wonders were being done through the apostles, and everyone was filled with awe. All the believers continued together in close fellowship and shared their belongings with one another. They would sell their property and possessions and distribute the money among all, according to what each one needed. Day after day they met as a group in the temple, and they had their meals together in their homes, eating with glad and generous hearts, praising God and enjoying the goodwill of all people. And every day the Lord added to their group those who were being saved. These events, they're summary events of the early church. It takes place just after Pentecost when Peter preaches, and the church grows from about 120 members to over 3,000 members. Quite a substantial, sudden growth, explosion in the church. And so I'll just present these questions for us to consider as we prepare for worship together on Sunday morning. The first is this. The Old Testament text that is read this coming Sunday is Psalm 23. God comforts, God leads, God provides, God guides. The question is, during this time, what has brought you comfort, and what has brought you hope, and what has brought you peace? I hope that these studies have provided a connection with you and between the church and you. And the Bible studies this past week seem to do that as well. And so I hope that you have found comfort and peace in this time. Again, this passage that I just read from Acts describes the early church, a summary of how they acted together. How well does it describe the church today, and what might need to change in order for the church to be described in this way? We have an opportunity to look at how we function here at the church, not just an imposed opportunity with this COVID-19 virus, but also the transition time, as I've said over and over again, a time for us to examine who we are and reflect on how we want to be the church, how God's calling us to be the church moving ahead. And so how might we consider what the early church looked like, and how might that impact who we are today? And the text says that all, A-W-E, all came upon everyone. How have you experienced a sense of communal awe and wonder? What caused that awe and wonder to happen, and how did it impact you? We talked about that question in the Bible study this week, and many people talked about communal awe, but they also talked about individual awe. Services like Easter sunrise or Christmas Eve candlelight services were highlighted as well. I hope that you've had those, and I hope that during this time of online worship and virtual most everything, that you're able to fall back on those times to help inspire you and nourish your faith and your spirit at this time. I do look forward to when we can be together again. I'm thankful for all your prayers and support and your reaching out to one another. And we'll check back in the next week as we continue our worship and studies together. Peace be with you. Take good care. Bye-bye.